I don't know a better way to put this. Bondtech fucked up, and we got to talk about it. Hey all, welcome back to PrintFixFriday. If you're new here and you're trying to learn a little bit more about INDX, dev kits, FE, PE, whatever it is, leave a like, get subscribed. We'll be covering the entire thing as it happens. As a lot of you know by now, Bondtech messed up. And there are people pointing some fingers. There seem to be some decent, thoughts in all of this. But I think it's better if we look at the facts. Bondtech INDX Founders Editions, the dev kits, up until the 18th of July 2026, were all sold with hardened nozzles, or so we thought. While they were technically hardened, they're not hard in the way that we as the community really like it. Because here in this community, we like it ultra hard, or something. Let's back up before we get into why this is happening. Let's talk about what actually is happening. An email was sent to Bondtech support about the nozzles being hardened. Now, the reason this was sent was because of comments inside of their Discord. Comments like it's HRC 30 to 32, usually marketed hardened nozzles, or HRC 55 to 60. And that's from Gustav. Like, his last name is Bondius. I'm not exactly certain how much closer to Bondtech you get than that. But Martin himself wasn't likely exactly expecting this to be a public statement, but ended up making a public statement, stating that he completely understands the disappointment that the nozzles themselves aren't hardened, especially if you primarily print abrasive nozzles. During the development of the INDX nozzles, we evaluated fully hardened 60 HRC steel version. However, during production, we encountered manufacturing challenges that prevented us from machining the material reliably. The cutting tools did not withstand the process. Any of you that even remotely understand machining, the cutting tools are where literally the metal meets the road, if you will, right? The cutting tools are supposed to shave off metal like I'm in a deli in New York City. That's not the case. Sometimes your materials are so hard and your tool breaks. I'm not saying this happened to me, but I'm saying I know some people that this has happened to. Requires hospitalization. But instead of releasing a product with inconsistent quality, Bondtech decided to go a different route, which is the nitro carburized version for the time being. The industry is pissed about this, and rightfully so. These were sold as hardened, and while Bondtech has fixed the verbiage on their website, Prusa hasn't, right? We can see hardened high-flow nozzles with passive tool heads. The standard nozzle is a hardened 0.4mm CHT, the ultimate combo. Well, it's not. Simple as that, it's not. And unfortunately, the community feels as though that is a bait and switch. And you know what? They're not wrong. But I think out of most creators, I've gotten to know the Bondtech people pretty well. And I can confidently tell you, bottom of my heart, they're not the best at communicating. Just gonna be outwardly honest about it. They're not the best at communicating. And likely this is something that got lost between the marketing side, the engineering side, and the business side. But that doesn't mean that all is forgiven. Bondtech has to do something about this. We heard from Bondtech staff that they would have an answer for us early this week, but this video is coming out on Friday. If we're lucky, they've said something on Thursday or Friday morning, but as of Wednesday night, ain't got nothing. Future Grant here, they responded. It was pretty much exactly what I thought, and just, community's pissed, and they got every reason to be pissed. This is an announcement of an announcement that is going to take time. The folks at Bondtech wrote out 5 paragraphs, right? There's only like 3 lines from this that even remotely matter to the vast majority of people. We sold a nozzle that was not what we promised, and we take complete ownership of this mistake. We are actively working on a full solution to rectify this for everybody affected. The rest of it is, we need more time, everybody's out on break, and we're sorry. This isn't what people were looking for. People were looking for answers. And when Bondtech team members said that they would have answers early in the week and they get it at 2:20 in the morning Eastern time, Thursday morning. Yeah, people are understandably pissed off. And we're starting to find more little odd problems with Index that are rubbing me the wrong way. So we can see there are some issues going on in the Discord right now. Beyond the Discord being upset at this and getting their pitchforks out, I was hoping that they wouldn't have to sharpen them, but yeah, you know what? You can sharpen your pitchforks. It kind of is what it is at this point. We've got an Index nozzle here that is coming out of the top, and this is likely due to the way that the nozzle is assembled, but this should not be happening. Further, we've got some problems with the coils. We can see that some people's coils came from the factory a little too smushed, and that means that the tool going in and out actually rubs on it. That's a problem. I thought that these coils were much more confidently attached to each other, like the enamel was somehow glued together, and it turns out it kind of is. According to Gustav himself, this is an email that was posted in our Discord, it uses CA glue to fasten the coil. And see, like, that's some of the CA glue there. The problem here is at 200 Celsius, super glue, cyanoacrylate, decomposes into hydrogen cyanide gas. Now, the coil shouldn't get that hot. The things around it definitely do. I'm not a chemist. I'm not anything like that. If the chemists can talk about whether or not this is an issue, if the engineers can talk about whether or not this is an issue down in the comments, that would be awesome, because I don't have the schooling for this. Now, while the unit that we have, the Founders Edition, works perfectly fine, there's no, like, issues with the tools docking and undocking, it seems the manual process of installing all of this is an issue. And when this coil is attached to the one board, which uses a rigid flex cable, which we actually showed off on a YouTube short, it's impossible to really fix it as a user without replacing that entire component. Yeah, you might be able to go in there with a pair of pliers and pry open the coil, but that's also not your job. There should be jigs and fixtures and things like that that get the coils to be the exact size they need to be. I want to give Bondtech the benefit of the doubt here, but I'm starting to feel like this is an unfortunate problem of a small company that, even though we've been telling them this for over a year, didn't expect the hype around their product to be as big as it was. And when they had to scale up manufacturing, found themselves in a bit of a challenging place when it comes to the obvious problems of scaling up manufacturing, one of them being the availability of skilled labor. Having been to Värnamo, Sweden, and if you happen to be a channel member or a Patreon member, go take a look back. You'll actually see hours of 360 content that we filmed walking through the backcountry, I guess, if you will, of Värnamo, Sweden. It's in the middle of nowhere, and skilled labor is going to be very difficult to find. This could be a result of that. I don't know, but I can tell you that this is a bit of a complicated issue. You can replace the coil, you have to replace the whole board. At that point, just send the whole tool head back and get a new one, as far as I'm concerned. Like, there's really no point in, like, pulling out the board and putting in a new... It's like, send the whole friggin' thing back. It's easier. But this is not the kind of thing that should happen. There should be something there to protect it. Something that is non-ferrous, something that doesn't have an issue with heat. Nylon, for instance, maybe a thin layer of nylon SLS around the coil somehow to protect it. It's cool to see the bare coil, but I don't think this makes it worthwhile. It just feels like this entire release, even though it's been delayed, has also been rushed. This comment here from Tommy saying, hey, this is an announcement of the announcement. There will be proper info, ideally not Discord, posted ASAP. At the same time, we will also email everyone with orders from our side with more details. Sorry, things are taking so long, and no, we are not trying to sweep or hide things under the rug. Which, fine, makes sense. Continuing to say, yeah, this was a bit of a tricky one. Most of the higher-ups were at Open Source in San Francisco, so while we found out about it, it was near impossible to do the duties there, plus this at the same time with the time zone change. Most of us got back Tuesday evening, so yesterday was the first day we could properly sit down and sync on it, as we really had to dig deep on what went wrong, how, and what to do next. We should be putting a proper statement and emails out ASAP. Would be surprised if it wasn't today. And that sounds like just, it kind of came out of nowhere, that Prusa themselves didn't see this coming. And again, Prusa's own marketing says it, right? Even as of Thursday, still says it. The community is upset. I think they're valid in the fact that they're upset. If Bondtech just needed to announce they needed more time, they could have announced this earlier in the week. They could have put that out hours after everything dropped. If they need more time, that's fine. But making the community wait to find out that we don't have a solution and we still need more time doesn't make sense to me. I'd love to know your thoughts down below, but I'm going to pass it back to past Grant, who looks just like current Grant, because current Grant didn't get a lot of sleep last night and is definitely not wearing the same shirt he wore yesterday. I don't think this was intentional. I don't believe that Bondtech themselves were being malicious, and this email from Martin Bondiush tells me that it's not. Because why would he ever put that in writing otherwise? Jacob and I talked about this heavily in the last Making Awesome podcast. We'll card to it so you guys can take a look, where we go through what we think might be valuable options. I've sent this to Bondtech. I'm sure at some point they'll watch it. The problem lies in that customers didn't get what they paid for. The first thing that comes to mind is get your money back. If you are someone that wants to print abrasives, get your money back. But as we've seen, the price has gone up with the tools going from $35 to $45. And now we also find out that they're not as hard as we expected. And look, Bondtech, I don't think they're used to this. A lot of us are used to Prusa launches having a hitch or two. And I was hoping that INDX, whether it's a Founders Edition, Prusa Edition, Dev Kit, whatever, would have less problems than this. Because ultimately, this is not what you want from either company, right? This is the first big pairing that we've seen in this industry in a long time, especially from companies that aren't out of China. These are both European countries that are manufacturing as much as they can locally. And for this to happen is a damage to both brands. We can see that the INDX sales copy literally says industrial durability meets CHT power, using their patented CHT by splitting the filament into 3 thinner strands. The nozzle melts material from within, significantly boosting flow rates and ensuring strong layer adhesion, but they're not crafted from hardened steel. And it says that these nozzles offer exceptional abrasive resistance, allowing you to print carbon fiber, glass fiber, and glow-in-the-dark filaments with zero fear of wear. It turns out to be a lie. We've released content on INDX talking about that it's hardened. Since literally day one, it's been talked about that it's hardened. As a creator, that hurts because unknowingly, we've now lied to you. And we've been a part of INDX kind of since it was first unveiled to the public. They clearly abandoned tool steel or hardened steel. So if they want to make it right, they now have to redo all of that. And they also have a backlog. This is a huge burden. And Prusa, as far as I'm aware, isn't equipped to do something like this. They have to now start that process all over again. Anyone that's ever run a CNC can tell you, when you change metals, everything changes. I think if there are people out there that have skill set in machining, that have knowledge or anything like that, if you have the skill set to help, reach out and help. If all we do is sit there and ping the Bondtech people every single day about where's an update, where's your solution, you're gonna make a bad problem for them worse. And I understand as consumers, that's not your responsibility, and it shouldn't be. But we are a community of people, and if we wanna do something where we can enact change in a way that makes sense, yelling at people constantly doesn't actually do anything. And Bondtech is likely running numbers, trying to figure out what they can do to make it right. As far as I'm concerned, I feel like there's only a couple of options, but I want to know from you guys in those comments. What options do you think make sense? Because to me, I've got 2 options. 1, refund the difference. If you were promised hardened nozzles, you didn't get hardened nozzles, and the hardened nozzles are X amount of money more than the non-hardened, give the users back that money. I think that's fair. Whether that's $30 a nozzle, $40 a nozzle, $50 a nozzle, whatever it is, give that back to the users. The other option, 8 new nozzles, 40 nozzles, however many you ordered, get them all replaced. I think that one is like the ideal solution for most consumers, because now they also have a spare set of nozzles for when they need it, and that means less spares on your end, but that does create a massive problem for Bondtech on the financial side of how many pieces they need to run, a time part of how many pieces they need to run, and just a logistics problem of, I know this might sound crazy, how many friggin' pieces they need to run. It's funny because INDX's kind of success has also been a bit of its downside. You can fit so many tools in this bad unit that I'm about to slap the roof and tell you all the great things about it. But that means that when there's a problem, you have to replace a lot of effing tools. Let's say there's 2,000 units out there. 3/4 of those are 8 tool heads, and the other quarter are 4. That's this many nozzles out in the world, and that's before any of you might have bought extras. And so let's just add 20% to that number, and we get this number, which, with the magic of editing, is clearly a big number. And let's just start running math times. If it takes 30 seconds to machine one of these, times this number, that's this many days, 24/7. And oh yeah, they're taking a machine out of production that's gonna slow down normal production. Do you see the snowball problem that we have? I have faith that Bondtech is gonna make this right. Now, Bondtech got themselves in this situation. And there are people out there saying, look, this is why Bamboo's eating their lunch. This is why Creality is gonna eat their lunch. And people do make a big difference. But when it comes to actually replying to people, love or hate this response, I would like to remind you that this is the founder of the company replying to a support ticket. That's pretty good customer service. I can clearly see that Martin didn't think there was going to be a fallout from this. The thing that we have to look at is the damage. For users, it's a lot of hurry up and wait. Users are left holding the bag, not really knowing what's going on, not getting good feedback from Bondtech. I've made it clear to Bondtech that I think that the level of communication that has been provided so far has been inadequate on this situation and everything else involving INDX. I don't think they're used to the, I would say, American way of information. They just put out information as it seems valuable to them and not putting themselves in the position of the consumer, where the consumer is chomping at the bit to get as much information as they can because they want it and they want it now.
But I want it now!
But we also don't have a lot of knowledge as to how much wear these nitrocarburized, which I have no idea what that is, but we don't know how strong those actually are. Users have already been running carbon fiber filled materials through it. One user in the Discord said they ran 3 kilos of PCCF through it. We've seen Bondtech's testing facility. We've looked at their RA systems to show how smooth the inner bore of their nozzles are and just to check surface quality. And Bondtech's got the stuff they need to do this. But they clearly ran into some level of production problem, whether that was time-based, money-based, personnel-based. That's probably the most likely scenario in my mind, but they ran into the problem and they made a decision. At that time is when we as the community should have been notified, because anytime after that, it feels as though they're hiding something from us. Bondtech team didn't think it was going to be a problem, and they didn't know that marketing had still left the Hardened up there. But what I can tell you with off-the-record talks that I've had with Bondtech staff, they're going to make it right. They're working on it. But I think one way that we all can help them is we've got this comment section that isn't going to be flooded with hate, because if it is, I'm getting rid of it because it doesn't do us any good. Now remember, you still have the opportunity to return it. They'll pay for return shipping, yada yada. But if you don't want your money back, how can Bondtech make it right? And I want you all to think about this not only from the perspective of the consumer, but how can Bondtech do this and not absolutely nuke future INDX parts? How can we find the best possible solution that keeps everybody in the situation happy? And you might look and say, Grant, you're speaking up a lot for this company. Yes, I am, because I have faith in them. They admitted fault. They admitted that they're going to work on this. Are they doing it in the time frame that all of us wanted? No. But we have to give them a chance to make it right. And if their offer to make it right doesn't seem reasonable, then tell them. But I think if we can tell them in the comments what you think makes sense, I think that's valuable. And we haven't even talked about Prusa in all of this. Prusa is the innocent third party in this one. They didn't know anything about this. I think this all boils down to communication. And if the community hadn't figured this out themselves by talking with Bondtech staff members in their Discord, and instead had been communicated about this as soon as that decision was made, or when the decision was being made, that would have helped. I don't know what's going to happen, but I will tell you we will do everything in our power to hold Bondtech accountable. I want to know from you guys, do you think this is recoverable? And if it is recoverable, how can Bondtech build up the trust again of the community? This is Bondtech's kind of, outside of delays and things like that, this is their first major faux pas. And I would think that this is probably one of the more major faux pas that we've seen since Bamboo shipped machines that literally catch fire. And on the subject of INDX, you guys pointed out something in one of our previous shorts that I didn't even notice. Our INDX is actually broken. Look, I didn't even notice that hairline crack. I have confirmed it doesn't actually matter. I've confirmed it doesn't matter. It is cosmetic only. It is where the coil itself is press fit into the actual SLS printed holder. Likely, it looks like maybe some pliers or something like that slipped. I have already addressed it with the engineering team at Bondtech, have already addressed it with their print farm manager, Andreas, and they are keeping an eye out for this. That part was more rigid than I expect regular freaking SLS glass-filled nylon to be. So if anything, it's stronger than it was previously. So I'm calling it a win. And so far, my INDX works perfectly fine. We would have never found that break had we not taken it apart. And to take it down to that part, if you want to do that yourself, you have to remove the print fan, because the print fan blocks some of the screws to remove the shroud. It's okay though, I don't really care. My car's 24 years old, has dents, the paint's fading and all of that, and I'm certainly not the prettiest boy on the face of this planet, no matter what my mother might tell me. Some other things that we've been noticing, and this happened to one of our own, Alex, the Nocturnist. If your INDX, Founders Edition, Precision, I don't care, isn't flashing the firmware properly and is yelling at you halfway through the bootloader, make sure that your freaking door switch is put on, because I didn't know this. We found it out the hard way. The only difference in the firmware and the way that the buddy board determines if you have a Core 1 or a Mark IV or Mark IVS is that freaking door switch. If the door switch is there, it's a Core 1. If the door switch isn't there, it's not. So if your door sensor has loose connections on it, you're gonna have a bad time. But as soon as those connections are good, your board will flash lickety friggin' split. But if you are having issues with your INDX and you want to get some help, you can reach out to us, pff@3musketeers.com. We'll help you out here on PrintFixFriday. We do have a fun video planned for next week. We actually have some machines in the shop right now that need repair. So instead of us repairing other people's printers over the internet, we're going to actually film the entire process of repairing a machine from start to finish. The first one is an X1 Carbon. It has a blob of doom and some broken PTFE tubes from what the user tells us. We're going to tear it down and find out what it looks like ourselves. So if you're excited for that, leave a like and get subscribed. And who knows, we might live stream that process. I don't know yet. Depends on how hot it friggin' gets here, because my God, it is hot here. Huge thank you goes out to all those channel members whose names are listed right next to me at the $5 tier and higher. Thank you for what you all do, making videos like this possible. I understand that, like, basically, for a couple of weeks now, we are potentially just burning business relationships that we have, but Bondtech is aware that we needed to have this talk. You and I, together, we have to have this talk. And I think that asking the community, what can Bondtech do to make it right, is the most important thing that we can be asking ourselves right now. Let's work on a solution together. And I think that way, you won't be pissed when it actually comes out. Thank you all again. Leave a like, get subscribed, stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. These videos are tough, but you got to do them. Raw recording time of 40 minutes for those that have ever wondered. Take care.